Some motorcycles just don't sell, no matter how hard dealers try. Today, we're looking at 7 bikes that nobody seems to want. Too heavy, too pricey, or just completely misunderstood. These are the ones dealers are begging you to take home. Number 7. The Kawasaki Eliminator. When this bike was announced, everyone thought it would be the perfect answer to Honda's Rebel 500. Light, stylish, and affordable. But somehow, the Eliminator never really took off. It's powered by a 451cc parallel twin engine, which sounds good on paper. But the problem isn't performance, it's personality. The Eliminator feels caught between two worlds. It's not quite sporty, and it's not quite a true cruiser either. Many riders say it lacks the soul and comfort that cruiser fans expect. The riding position is a bit awkward for taller riders, and the overall design feels a little too plain compared to what competitors are offering at this price range, around $6,500. Even dealers admit it's a tough sell when most buyers simply walk over to the Rebel 500 right next to it. And that's the real issue. The Eliminator doesn't give you a strong reason to pick it. It's good but not exciting. Reliable but not memorable. It sits in that gray zone where riders respect it but rarely fall in love with it. That said, the bike itself isn't bad. It's smooth, lightweight, and easy to handle. But in a market full of more character-rich options, the Eliminator just doesn't stand out, and that's exactly why dealers are struggling to move it off the showroom floor. Number 6. The Triumph Trident 660. When Triumph launched the Trident, it was supposed to bring that legendary British charm to an affordable middleweight bike. And at first glance, it looks amazing. Clean design, smooth triple engine, and that signature Triumph badge that screams quality. But here's the twist. Even with all those positives, the Trident never became the hit Triumph expected. Powered by a 660cc triple-cylinder engine, it's incredibly smooth and refined. But many riders say it lacks that emotional punch they want from a Triumph. It's fast enough, yes, but it doesn't feel exciting, and that's a big part of why it gets ignored in showrooms. The seat height of around 31.7 inches makes it comfortable for most riders. And at around $8,500, it's not too expensive either. But here's the problem. For just a little more money, riders can step up to bikes like the Yamaha MT-07 or even Triumph's own Street Triple, which offer more power, stronger personality, and better value overall. Dealers say the Trident often sits for months before someone shows real interest. It's one of those bikes that people appreciate on paper but don't actually buy. It's reliable, well-built, and honestly a great first Triumph. But when it comes to passion and excitement, it just doesn't light that spark. And that's why it quietly ends up on the list of motorcycles no one really wants. Number 5. The Indian Scout Bobber. On the surface, this bike has everything: a muscular stance, low-slung style, and that unmistakable American attitude. It's the kind of motorcycle that makes you turn your head when you see it parked outside a cafe. But here's the truth. For all that beauty, the Scout Bobber isn't as friendly to live with as it looks. Underneath, it's powered by a 1250cc V-twin engine. And yes, it sounds incredible. Deep, throaty, and full of character. The problem? That power comes with heat, weight, and a stiff suspension that can make longer rides a chore. At over 542 pounds, this bike feels heavy in city traffic. And with its low 25.6 inches seat height, comfort quickly becomes an issue for taller or older riders. Mechanics also note that maintenance and parts for the Scout line can be pricier than expected. Now, none of this makes it a bad bike, far from it. It's a piece of art that looks timeless and rides strong. But it's more of a show bike than a daily companion. Dealers often say people love taking photos with it, but hesitate to actually buy it. And that's exactly why the Indian Scout Bobber, despite its raw appeal, often ends up sitting longer in showrooms than it deserves. Number 4. The Suzuki Boulevard M109R. This bike is an absolute beast, massive, powerful, and built to make a statement. It's the kind of machine that makes people stare when they hear that deep rumble echoing down the street. Powered by a 1783cc V-twin engine, the M109R delivers brutal torque and serious performance. Easily one of the most powerful cruisers ever made by Suzuki. But here's the catch. All that muscle comes with a price: weight, size, and comfort. Tipping the scales at nearly 764 pounds, the M109R feels like a workout every time you take it out. Its low-slung seat and long wheelbase give it a bold look. but make tight turns and slow-speed maneuvers surprisingly difficult. And while the aggressive riding position looks cool, it can leave your back and wrists begging for mercy on longer rides. Even dealers admit, this bike is a tough sell. It's too heavy for casual riders, too impractical for touring, and too intimidating for beginners. Most people admire it from a distance but never actually commit to buying one. Don't get me wrong, the M109R is an engineering masterpiece, a true muscle cruiser that delivers raw power like few others. But for most riders, it's just too much motorcycle. And that's exactly why it's one of those bikes dealers can't seem to move, even though it looks like a dream on the showroom floor. Number 3. The BMW R18. At first glance, the R18 looks like pure art, a German masterpiece built with chrome, curves, and confidence. It's BMW's attempt to bring their engineering precision into the world of big American-style cruisers. And honestly, it's one of the most stunning motorcycles you'll ever see on a showroom floor. Powered by a 1802cc boxer twin engine, the R18 delivers a thunderous 91 horsepower and endless torque. But that same engine is also what makes this bike so intimidating. At nearly 767 pounds, it's huge, heavy, and demands serious strength to handle, especially at low speeds. Riders love the sound, the finish, and the attention it gets. But when it comes to comfort and practicality, the R18 just doesn't feel like a typical BMW. It runs hot, it's tough to maneuver, and long rides can quickly become exhausting. Even the price, starting around $16,000, makes it a risky buy for casual riders. Dealers admit that despite all the hype, the R18 has been one of BMW's hardest bikes to sell. It's too heavy for everyday riding, too pricey for most cruiser fans, and too niche for BMW loyalists. There's no denying it's a work of art, a showpiece that turns heads everywhere it goes. But in the real world, it's a bike that very few people actually take home. And that's exactly why the BMW R18, for all its beauty, remains one of those motorcycles that no one really wants. Number 2. The Harley-Davidson Nightster. When Harley announced the Nightster, everyone thought it would be a game-changer, lighter, cheaper, and made for a new generation of riders. On paper, it was everything people had been asking Harley to build. It comes with a 975cc Revolution Max V twin engine producing around 91 horsepower, and it's one of the smoothest modern motors Harley has ever built. The handling is sharp, the suspension feels solid, and the tech is finally up to date. But somehow it still didn't click. Traditional Harley fans call it too modern, while new riders say it still feels like a Harley. Heavy, expensive, and a bit intimidating. Priced around $10,500, it falls into an awkward middle ground, where it's not affordable enough for beginners and not classic enough for loyalists. Even dealers have admitted that interest in the Nightster has cooled fast. It's not that it's a bad motorcycle, in fact it's a really well-built one, but it lacks the emotion and identity that made older Harleys iconic. It's stuck between two worlds, trying to please everyone and ending up ignored by both. And that's why, despite all the effort Harley put into reinventing itself, the Nightster has quietly become one of those bikes that just refuses to leave the showroom floor. Number 1. The Triumph Rocket 3. Let's be honest, this motorcycle is absolutely wild. It's the biggest, most powerful production bike Triumph has ever built, and on paper it looks unstoppable. Powered by a massive 2458cc triple-cylinder engine, the Rocket 3 delivers a mind-blowing 165 horsepower and a mountain of torque, enough to pull a small car. Every twist of the throttle feels like launching a rocket, and that's not just a name, it's an experience. But here's the thing, no one really needs that much power. At over 641 pounds, the Rocket 3 is huge, heavy, and surprisingly difficult to live with. It's not ideal for short rides, not comfortable enough for long tours, and definitely not something you want to drop in a parking lot. Most riders who test it walk away amazed, but not ready to buy it. Dealers say it's one of the most admired and least sold bikes on their floor. It's just too extreme for everyday use, and most people end up realizing they'd rather ride something lighter, cheaper, and easier to control. Now don't get me wrong, the Rocket 3 is a masterpiece. It's bold, brutally fast, and built like a luxury tank. But unless you're collecting bikes for bragging rights, this is one rocket most people will never take home. And that's exactly why dealers are practically begging riders to buy one, because it's more legend than lifestyle. And that wraps up our list of motorcycles that just can't find a home. Which one surprised you the most? And which one do you secretly like anyway? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ride safe.